Hello viewers, my name is Adam.
I'm Aaron.
This is Seeking Productions. For you, another movie review.
Wow, this particular anime has completely just blown up. I mean, I have not seen an animated feature, especially an international one, be this popular in a while.
Yes, and we're talking about, in this video, Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, Infinity Castle.
So, just going right out there, please do not go into this movie if you have not done your homework, i.e. watch the first at least...
No, just the 4 seasons.
Yeah, the 4 seasons. You literally do have to be caught up because this film is not holding your hands. It is literally going straight into into the story, kicking it off from the very last arc that we had, which was the Hashira training arc.
And before that, let's discuss Demon Slayer in general. And also, we're close to 1,000 subscribers.
We're almost there. We are literally touching it.
Yeah, so it'll be nice for you to follow us, and so you can see our other upcoming projects down the road. Demon Slayer, we haven't talked about this anime since its first season, like years ago. But since then, it had its own first theatrical film, Mugen Train, and like we said, about another 3 seasons afterwards. And to be more emphasis significance of Mugen Train is, like, as of right now, the highest grossing Japanese film of all time.
Yes.
And is even more impressive because of when it came out around the COVID pandemic era.
So, like, if you were actually around to really understand what the concepts of that is, there was really nobody going to the theaters watching anything because of just how big restrictive everything was. So for the very fact that this particular franchise was able to get individuals into the seats and fill them up almost entirely is incredible.
And the mere fact that because of that success, it was also the highest grossing film of that year. Worldwide, the number one, not even beating out even Hollywood Pictures.
And to be honest with you, after coming back from the theaters and noticing just how filled up the seats where we was watching this movie at, it might do it again.
Yeah, and the reason why Mugen Train is even that successful in the first place because of the difference between most TV anime movies that go to theaters. Most of the time when it's a TV anime and they have a movie, it's technically an original story, essentially filler. It's
standalone content that honestly doesn't have any real connections towards the main storylines that a lot of these franchise entertainment pieces really spin from. But when you look at it from the Kimetsu no Yaiba Demon Slayer angle, no, these are canon. This is storylines that are directly interwoven to what you have seen in the small screen brought to you to the silver screen.
And so it showed levels of urgency to watch the latest installment that continues that story.
But let's bring it back. What even is Demon Slayer, and what is in this movie specifically? Where does it function? How does it go? What was it even about?
Well, so Demon Slayer, if you haven't been following, it's about a young character named Tanjiro whose family is slaughtered by the big main demon of the series, Muzan, and he goes out for revenge. To train himself to become a Demon Slayer. In the midst of him becoming a Demon Slayer, he has someone protect, i.e. the sole survivor, survivor-ish of his family, his sister, Nezuko.
And in this particular situation for Nezuko, she didn't escape unscathed. Again, you lost your entire family aside from your brother, but she herself was also turned into a demon as well. And so Tanjiro has to juggle this this dilemma of trying to avenge his family and protect the world of humans from these incredible threats, these mystical demonic creatures, but at the same time trying to find a cure and protect his sister as well, who has been lost towards that angle as well.
Now, fast forward so many seasons now.
Oh yeah.
Infinity Castle picks up right where the last story arc left off, which was the Hashira training arc. The last stretch of the last final episode of season 4, the person who essentially runs the Demon Slayer Corps, Kaguya Ubuyashiki, he sets a trap for Muzan because let's just say that Muzan, he is after Nezuko for a very specific reason. We don't want to really spoil too much.
Again, you really do need to go back and watch the predecessing seasons if you really want to be caught up to what this movie's really at.
He sets a trap to essentially have all the head leaders, the Hashiras, to finally go after the tag team Muzan. But yeah, Uno reverse card.
Of course, Muzan has his own trip card, and now they have all been sucked into this otherworldly world where everything is continuously to shift around them, and they are surrounded by demons on all sides. Every individual player that has been put into this infinity castle are put on a stage where they have to fight for their lives, as well as try and get to the main goal, as in Muzan's destruction.
So, Infinity Castle is the first in the planned trilogy to finish off the final story arc of the manga of Demon Slayer. And this movie in particular, it is structured through 3 major fights that makes up essentially the first act of this overarching storyline.
And in those particular sections, we have Shinobu Kocho, who is facing off against her hated enemy, the killer of her dear beloved big sister, one of the upper moons, that of the character known as Doma. From that angle, we also have the other fight that takes place with another character, Zenitsu, who is fighting against his rival slash sibling student. That in that fight, and then we also have, of course, the Giyu and Tanjiro fight that faces off against Akaza.
So, very dense in plot in terms of if you have not watched anything up until this point.
Mm-hmm.
But in generally speaking, Demon Slayer, I think part of the reason why it's so successful in its first place is the simplicity of how it tells a story. With very high emotion.
Mm-hmm. And the Demon Slayer pretty much wears its emotions on its sleeve, and I feel as though that is made because of the mere fact is they pour a lot of deep, heart-wrenching moments within the series itself. That keeps a lot of anime enthusiasts keep coming back for more, and also it's just not put the bigger elephant in the room, but a lot of the production goes into this movie is actually pretty top notch.
More of that later.
Mm-hmm.
But when it does throw a lot of these emotions because they do go into a lot of the backstories of so many of the characters.
Sometimes also to the detriment.
Yes. Even though we all know this is not by the end of this movie. No, it's not it doesn't feel as a big finale of sorts, but it does feel like it's the ending of the first act of a story.
Mm-hmm.
But it getting to that point, it is at times uneven in its pacing.
Yes.
Particularly in the last third act.
I feel so. One of the major problems that I probably had with this particular film is the fact that they put so much exposition into the individuals' backstories as to why characters act or do the things they have done or feel.
A lot of the backstories are really repetitive
in
terms of why they're doing this in the first place.
I became a demon because I had a horrible backstory. I lost my family, or I did something that that I didn't lead the best life, or made the right choices, and then an individual like Muzan comes around, turns me into a demon, and then I feel as I get lost in the sauce.
It's if you're able to get past a lot of that, then you'll still find a lot of enjoyment.
Mm-hmm.
For characters wise, Tanjiro, he's really did set, like, even though he's the main character, the story, they really do hold him back until the last third of the act of the story of this movie, as it prioritizes the 2 previous other fights ahead of him. But it does showcase a lot of what Tanjiro's growth up until this point.
Yes, this individual had to fight so many heart-wrenching moments that really any lesser individual would have just caved or just fell off the path a while ago. But Tanjiro has this unbelievable willpower that pushes him forward, and this sense of and duty of to go against or at least to charge forward of knowing what is right and what is wrong.
Very high main character energy.
Mm-hmm.
Typical. I do like the partnership that he has with Giru in this film, because it really showcased they are working as in sync.
Yes.
As if they were always fall alongside each other. It's something that's not necessarily happened in the whole series, but it was a lead up to this point, and it was that understanding amongst those two, and they're basically on the same level at this point.
Yeah.
So probably Tanjiro a little bit more so now.
But also the familial ties and bonds that comes with the individuals you love or have history with, i.e. some of the moments in this film that highlights his Tanjiro's past with his father figure. I feel as though that is some of the most interesting elements that you actually get out of the story itself, or at least the story elements that has developed Tanjiro to the person he is now, and having chances to come back and actually view it from a different angle definitely adds a lot more depth to this character.
And that the character is a bit more parallel highlighted with his adversary in this movie, Akaza. Part of his backstory that we're not going to go too much, because it was a bit surprised a little bit of surprise, but it was also a little bit overlong at that point.
It dragged out a little bit, way too much for my particular taste.
Yeah, we do get a better understanding of Akaza's situation here. Also, but still elevating him to such a major threat, because of course he was the final boss in this movie. At this point,
going straight from Tanjiro to Shinobu Kocho, Insect Pillar, I truly did love both her style and her grace and her storyline that came from the original from the series into this film, and then you actually see a lot of the payoff from her for her specific backstory and her development in this film.
But it's such a tonal shift
to how she was presented in that same light,
because
too.
she's usually in a series and only very quick glimpse of how she usually portrays herself as more calm and revered. This one, because of she's facing off against the major threat from her past, she is all her emotions all screen.
Yeah, it's basically she is the bomb. She is the fire that is lit, and she's dead set on getting revenge.
And it's they did held her backstory is something that's fresh in this story that they decided to tell in this film. It's still repetitive, and it's gonna be interesting, because even though that they do introduce first, it still lingers on most likely gonna be the next film.
Yeah,
because her story is unresolved as of right now.
Yeah, it continues on with the fight itself.
The second part of this film is Zenitsu versus Kaigoku. Such a big payoff.
Yes, a character who originally, when they were brought it on, was more of a comedic relief type character, but at the same time had a lot of reserve strength within themselves. In this particular film, just like the switch that we got from Shinobu Kocho, Zenitsu is dead set on his goal in this film, which is tied directly towards events that came before this story.
And it's his stuff, as fast as his ability is that he prioritizes, is as fast as his battle ends up being. But as one of the most visually stunning fights that happened. It was very much a payoff. His adversary, he's actually the lowest ranked character I would put in this film. But how does this all photo up is blown up in a theatrical sense. The production of Demon Slayer Infinity Castle continues to be directed by the series director Haruo Sotozaki.
The animation of this film is just as flawless as it was when it was when it was on the smaller screen, i.e. there was really no real big transitions. What you got from the series when it was when you, depending on how you watch it, what format, it translates just as well on the silver screen in movies.
I would say that the biggest aspect as to why they decided to go do this as a movie will probably be the Infinity Castle itself, because of how expansive and grand they decided to execute the setting, especially near the final of the last third of the act, which really does highlight the visual scope of where this story can be. It's probably going to get even more intricate as we're going forward.
But I feel as though one of the major positive aspects as towards the production value, especially when we look at it from the animation angle that Kimetsu no Yaiba Demon Slayer actually gives us, is that they do a fine job at blending two distinct styles, i.e. 2D animation as well as 3D animation. Both of them harmonizes really well, from the way that the castle itself is functioning and moves around, how the characters themselves move around in their environments and their attacks and basically everything they do in order to actually get one up on each other. I feel so that one of the other highlights is that no matter how fast or how intricate the movements are that these characters are performing on one another, or how they move on the screen, you can the animators have done a splendid job being able to help the audience actually see each movement goes. Every slash, every kick, every punch, you can see it. And you actually see it methodically given out. No wasted effort, no wasted efforts or movements are here. You truly have a true understanding as to the particular mindset as for what our characters are doing, what they're doing.
And it's also, I think, will also be highlighted as also the sound design in this movie. We watched this in a Dolby theater,
and you hear it.
Yes, the impacts, in the way that they decided to really emphasize the action here. It does benefit the very fact that this is a theatrical series.
Yes.
This is a theatrical production that does elevate. I will say that because of how well animated the series has always been on TV, it got to a point where midway to late season 1 and then early on in season 2, later in season 2, where the animation quality on TV was theatrical worthy. It's just that there's a couple of times there probably at times that maybe this could have easily still have been a TV season. If it was edited as to multiple episodes.
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm grateful to be able to watch it, and it was still a heck of a time being able to go to the theaters to actually experience something like this. But at the same time, because there really is no real transitional difference between when it was on TV to now then the movie theaters, I feel as though at this point a lot of these productions have to step up their games, be able to to justify why we're watching here. I mean, I feel
what's the difference?
Exactly. I feel so at this point, the only real reason why we're actually watching Kimetsu no Yaiba in the theaters is because A, it shortens up the time for us to be able to hurry up with these stories, and B, because it's going to generate a lot of revenue.
Yeah, and also music. This movie really elevates the traditional blend of old style Japanese orchestral sound, of new age music as well. That blending of the choir, depending on what type of genre of music it decides to remix into, it really does help. It gives this series its own unique edge and a lot of modern anime.
Yes, every particular note, every melody gets your heart pumping in the right moments, or pulls at the heartstrings when it honestly matters most.
Yeah, it just does also helps when the returning of singers Lisa and Amir, who does the 2 musical songs that bookends this movie from beginning and also the final song. Very nice touch.
Really comes in clutch.
So, what we think about Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, Infinity Castle?
This is a really good movie in and of itself. I feel as though there's definitely a lot of points where I feel as though they could have brought up their game as far as giving complexity towards story arcs and story and character development. but for what it was worth, it was definitely an enjoyable time in the theaters.
Yeah, that was our review for the Demon Infinity Castle. Wonder what they're going to call the next movie. Are they going to do part 2 or just standard 2, or are you going to give it its own little subtitle?
Dealer's choice. Are you a fan of Kimetsu no Yaiba, Demon Slayer? How do you feel about this new transitional period in which we're now, instead of watching it on the smaller screen, we're going to go to theaters, finish up these anime arcs? What other animes do you feel as though deserves to have this big screen treatment?
Next up will be Chainsaw Man, the Reze arc.
And then we're also going to get Jujutsu Kaisen coming down the line.
That's more of a those are compilations.
Exactly. Those compilations.
Made in Abyss will have its next story arc in theaters as well.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
it's an interesting time.
It's modern anime. I feel as though because they're more shorter in length now and story wise, as opposed to previous TV anime that's usually like long running, like One Piece and Naruto, that they are able to translate much more better from TV to movies when, on a canonical mainline sense.
Again, we're living in really interesting times.
So there we have it. That was our review. Be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Comment below.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Adam.
And this has been Secret Media Productions.
See you.